Have you ever noticed how, in life, we tend to judge people by their appearance before we even get to know them? Picture a simple man, soft, spoken, wearing worn-out clothes with calloused hands, walking into a place where no one expects him to have a voice or even a chance. The skeptical glances and the quiet humiliation come almost instantly. But what if I told you the story doesn't end the way you think it will? That there's a twist so unexpected. No one at that dealership saw it coming? Something so powerful that it forever changed the way everyone saw that man. If you're tired of appearances and false assumptions, this story will touch your heart in a way few others can. Stay with me, because what you're about to witness will challenge everything you believe about success, dignity, and justice. Buck Carter walked into that dealership without hurry, like someone who's used to observing before taking action. The creak of his dust-covered boots blended with the quiet hum of the air conditioning and the exaggerated shine of the cars on display. It was as if the environment itself didn't know what to do with his presence. His faded plaid shirt, time-worn jeans, hands rough as tree bark, and a worn-out backpack slung over his shoulder. Each element told a story too big to be put into words. Yet he didn't seem out of place. Buck carried a kind of dignity that only those who've truly lived can wear. A silent kind of respect that asks for nothing from anyone. Still, the moment he crossed the dealership doors, heads turned, not with admiration, but with judgment. One of the salesmen, dressed in a tight blazer and wearing a rehearsed smile, glanced quickly at his coworkers, as if inviting mockery. That one looks more like a free coffee guy than a customer. Then came the muffled chuckles, the raised eyebrows, the poorly disguised whispers. It was as if a man's worth could be measured by the cut of his clothes, the scent of his cologne, or the way he pronounced each word. And Buck? He just kept walking, silently. He examined the cars with the kind of attention only someone who truly understands engines would have. But no one saw that because they were too busy seeing only what their eyes could perceive. And that's when the cruelest kind of humiliation began. The kind that doesn't need to be spoken aloud to cut deep. Buck knew exactly what was happening. It wasn't the first time he'd been judged by his appearance. Since he was young, he'd learned that real people rarely fit into the molds the world imposes. As a teenager, he tried dressing better so he wouldn't be treated as inferior. But he soon realized that for some, no matter how much you improve, they'll always see you as less. That left scars, but it also taught valuable lessons. One of them was simple. Silence sometimes teaches more than any answer. So, in that place full of false shine, Buck stayed quiet. He checked out one pickup truck here, measured another there. He touched the hood lightly with his fingertips, as if talking to the metal. He knew what he wanted, he just needed to feel it. Meanwhile, the salesman kept mocking him. One, bolder than the rest, stepped closer and shot sarcastically. "Is there any more affordable model you'd like to see, sir?" Buck looked at him and smiled slightly, not out of sympathy, but from experience, and calmly replied, "Just looking, sir." Then he turned his attention back to the next truck. The salesman shrugged, turned his back, and went back to the group, laughing. No one there knew who they were dealing with. They didn't know about the land Buck had inherited from his father and expanded. They didn't know about the contracts he signed with transportation and livestock companies. They didn't know that in that simple backpack was enough money to buy not one, but several of those vehicles. And Buck, with his serene calm, didn't need to prove anything to anyone. He just observed, because he knew time reveals everything, especially who truly matters. And that's exactly what bothers so many people. The silent presence of someone who carries true value but doesn't need to shout to be noticed. Buck was the kind of man who didn't care about appearances, but about results. He didn't live to impress, he lived to accomplish. And in a world that values outer show so much, That's almost an act of rebellion. While the salesman continued to dismiss his presence, he analyzed the engines like someone who had taken apart and rebuilt dozens of them. His eyes scanned every technical detail, every dashboard specification, every alignment of the body. He knew what he was looking for: strength, durability, and performance. He didn't want luxury, he wanted efficiency. And that clarity only bothered those who underestimated him even more. Because someone who knows what they want and doesn't need to please anyone poses a threat to the false superiority of those who hide behind appearances. This scene strikes a chord because it reveals a deep social wound. The silent prejudice that still shapes relationships, business, and opportunities. How many times throughout life have people been ignored for seeming too simple? How many doors have closed just because someone didn't fit the expected mold? Buck's story is the story of many. It's the story of those who work, dream, build, but are treated like they're invisible. And the most painful part? Knowing that if he had walked in wearing a suit, an expensive watch on his wrist, and an arrogant smile, he would have been treated like a king. But dressed in truth, he was treated like nobody. Yet the game was far from over. And the gears of life were already beginning to turn, because humiliating someone without knowing them can cost far more than any vehicle in that dealership. Buck remained silent for a long time, like someone planting seeds in the soil and waiting for the right moment to harvest. The salesman kept bustling around, trying to close deals with customers who looked more appropriate, chatting up those wearing designer brands, offering coffee to those who seemed to have unlimited credit cards. But Buck, standing quietly in the corner, was doing his own technical assessment. He examined the tires, compared traction, measured height, and consulted catalogs with the calm of someone who understands the value of every detail. Then he stopped in front of a specific model, a sturdy pickup truck with a solid frame, high suspension, and a reliable engine. That was it. Without hesitation, he approached the same salesman who had mocked him minutes before with an ironic question. But this time, Buck didn't smile. He looked straight into the young man's eyes and, with a firm yet calm voice, said the phrase that silenced the entire room. "I want 7 of these, identical ones, and I'll pay in cash." It was as if time froze. The salesman froze. He blinked several times, thinking he must have misheard. Then he asked, almost breathless, "Sorry, 7? Buck nodded. "7. Go ahead and make the invoice." And the silence that followed was almost deafening. The other salesmen gathered around, trying to understand what was happening. The man who just minutes ago was the subject of ridicule now commanded the room with a simple sentence. And none of them knew how to hide their own shame. The scene that unfolded next was a spectacle of reversed expectations. The manager was called in a hurry. Smiles that had been held back before appeared. Hurried handshakes took place, and they even offered sparkling water. But Buck remained unshaken. He didn't care about being treated well now. He had already understood everything he needed to know about that place. What hurt the others the most, but also taught them, was the fact that he didn't boast. He didn't rub his victory in anyone's face. He didn't say, "I told you so," or "Look who's in charge now." He simply did what he had come to do, with simplicity and firmness. He presented a neatly organized stack of papers. The farm's bank statement, proof of funds, transfer details, everything perfectly documented. The manager, sweating nervously, tried to keep his composure, but shame showed in every gesture. And Buck, on the other side of the desk, remained calm, like a man who doesn't need to prove anything, just do what's right. When asked why he wanted 7 pickup trucks, he answered even more surprisingly, "They're for 7 friends, people who helped me when I had nothing. Now it's time to give back." At that moment, The looks exchanged were a mix of astonishment and admiration, because what seemed like a show of power was, in fact, an act of gratitude. And then, the final blow wasn't financial, it was moral. Because Buck wasn't there to impress. He was there to honor memories. And that, my friend, is priceless. This turnaround, unexpected yet powerful, carries within it a silent but brutal lesson. Never underestimate someone by their appearance, and never forget that true giants walk in silence. The man who entered that store ignored, invisible, ridiculed, was now the center of attention. Not because of showiness, but because of character. The very same Buck Carter who endured muffled laughs and condescending looks was now signing a contract for 7 vehicles as casually as buying bread at the bakery. And the most beautiful part of it all is that he didn't use this power as a shield or a weapon. He used it as a tool for justice, because his intention was always clear: to repay the support he had received back when no one believed in him. And in that gesture, he taught the salesman and everyone watching that true status doesn't shout. It shows itself in the details, in actions, in the consistency between word and deed. Buck didn't shout, didn't humiliate, didn't boast. He simply fulfilled his mission. As a farmer, as a man, as a symbol of integrity. And even though the purchase was a large one, the impact of that turnaround was even greater. In the minds of those who judged him, a scar was formed. And in the hearts of those who hear the story, an inevitable question arises. How many times have we failed to recognize greatness behind a simplicity we didn't understand? That is the mark Buck left on that place. A mark that, interestingly, wasn't made with money, but with respect. After the surprising announcement of the purchase, Buck Carter remained calm, almost detached from the buzz that filled the dealership. He knew that the sudden smiles, opportunistic compliments, and curious glances didn't reflect what had truly happened there, nor the real value of his presence. For him, money was not the goal, but the means. What truly mattered, more than the 7 vehicles or the flawless bank transfer, was respect. That rare ingredient you can't buy or demand, but earn through genuine actions and integrity. And that's how Buck answered when asked who he wanted to be served from that point on. He chose John, the only salesman who, from the very first moment, had treated him with honesty, humility, and without any hint of prejudice or arrogance. Those who had laughed at him before, making jokes about his simple clothes and soft, spoken manner, were left behind, completely ignored. John, upon receiving the choice, felt a mix of surprise and quiet pride. He understood that this decision represented a deep recognition, a well-deserved reward for someone who maintained humanity amidst judgment and silent humiliation. And in that gesture, Buck sent a message that went beyond the walls of that store. That respect is the true currency of value, and nothing, not even money, can replace the dignity earned through authentic actions. This act of choosing who would accompany him was not just a practical preference, but a powerful statement against the arrogance and prejudice he had silently endured. Buck made it clear and practical that wealth or power mean nothing if not accompanied by genuine respect. The decision to value those who treated him with dignity is worth infinitely more than any sum of money or signed contract. It's like the old lesson that says, "Those who sow respect reap consideration," and that's exactly what he did, with a serenity and maturity that silenced the room. There was no room for humiliation or revenge, only for an elegant, just, and meaningful gesture. The atmosphere shifted, silence returned, but this time it was filled with reverence and understanding. The salesmen who had belittled Buck and tried to fix their mistake with empty politeness were forced to recognize that they were facing a man who was not just a wealthy customer, but someone who knew how to value what really matters: dignity. He demanded the bare minimum: to be treated with respect, something many still forget is a basic human right. This choice resonates within each of us, awakening reflection on how we act in our own relationships. It's impossible not to be moved by Buck's decision, which echoes in so many real-life stories. How many times have we found ourselves in situations where, even having power or authority, we chose not to engage with those who treated us poorly or with disdain? Or, on the other hand, how many times have we chosen to invest our trust, friendship, and partnership in those who, despite having little resources, extended their hand with respect and sincerity? This gesture, so simple and yet so powerful, represents a delicate balance between justice and humility. Buck did not act on impulse or out of arrogance. He didn't seek to humiliate or take revenge. He acted wisely, guided by a sense of emotional justice that resonates deep within the human soul. This stance reinforces an essential principle. Respect is the foundation of every true connection, whether personal or professional. And when someone like Buck chooses to walk alongside those who respected him from the start, he reaffirms a universal value, the dignity we all deserve and must preserve. His story, therefore, is not just about money or power, but about the power of respect and integrity. It invites us to reflect. Are we giving proper value to the people around us? And, more importantly, how do we want to be treated when we are in their position? This reflection opens a door to a greater learning that goes far beyond appearances or status, touching the very essence of what it means to be human. At that decisive moment, when the sale of the 7 pickup trucks was practically sealed, the atmosphere in the dealership underwent an almost tangible transformation. The silence that had once been filled with doubt and even a hint of disdain now pulsed with growing curiosity. It was inevitable. The manager, still trying to grasp the full magnitude of the action, asked Buck Carter why he was making such an unusual and imposing purchase. With a gaze reflecting a mix of serenity and firmness, Buck began his response, not as a salesman explaining a transaction, but as a man sharing an intimate part of his story. "These trucks," he started, "aren't for me. They're for 7 men who stood by me when I had nothing, when everything seemed lost. Men who not only believed in me but helped me get back on my feet when I fell, who reached out their hands when I needed them most." It was a revelation filled with genuine emotion, cutting through the air thick with shallow assumptions like a sharp knife. Those words revealed the heart of a man who never forgets his roots, who values loyalty and gratitude above all else. Suddenly, what seemed like just a business transaction became a gesture of recognition, a quiet celebration of the strength of friendships that have withstood the tests of time. Buck continued speaking, his voice gaining strength and depth as he unfolded the story behind it all. He described, with the calm that only years of struggle and learning can bring, the moments when he hit rock bottom, when hope was scarce and the challenges seemed insurmountable. He remembered those who stood by his side, companions who shared the burden, offered comfort, and never abandoned the ship even in the fiercest storms. They were simple men, just like him, who had little but gave everything they could to help. Those pickup trucks, then, were not mere vehicles. They were living symbols of overcoming hardship, unity, and the trust they had built together over the years. Buck emphasized that he could have invested in luxury cars for himself or material goods that showed off success. But his heart chose something different, a gift that represented the strength of the collective, honoring those who helped build his story. With this revelation, he not only touched the people present in the dealership, but also planted a seed in everyone who heard the message, the importance of recognizing and valuing those who were there during the defining moments of our lives. Buck's gesture is a profound lesson that goes far beyond material value. It invites us to reflect on the true meaning of gratitude and loyalty, values often forgotten in the rush of modern life, but which form the solid foundation for any lasting achievement. By choosing to gift his old comrades in struggle with sturdy, identical pickup trucks, he He shows that success is not synonymous with selfishness, but with sharing. That recognizing those who stood by your side during hard times is actually a sign of strength, not weakness. These trucks, symbols of hard work and resilience, are more than gifts. They are living testimonies of a shared journey, honoring the past and building the future. Buck's revelation offers an open invitation for the viewer to think about their own story. Who are the people deserving to be remembered and honored? Which bonds need to be strengthened? This reflection prepares the ground for the next chapter, where the strength of the past becomes a life lesson about dignity and respect. When Buck Carter decided to personally deliver the trucks, he knew that moment would be more than a simple handover of vehicles. It would be a rite filled with symbolism and genuine emotion. He traveled from farm to farm, road to road, carrying far more than just a car key. He carried a piece of his story, a silent acknowledgement of what those friendships meant in his life. Each stop was an opportunity to recall difficult days, to relive memories, and to strengthen bonds that time hadn't worn down. On the contrary, it had only made them stronger. The reaction of each friend upon receiving the gift was unique and intense. Teary eyes, trembling hands, tight embraces that spoke louder than 1,000 words. It was the recognition of the value of what they had built together, not just friendship, but trust and hope. Buck, for his part, remained humble, aware that the true gift was that bond money could never buy. The delivery of each truck was a reaffirmation of what life had taught them, that solidarity and respect are the forces that move the world. Moreover, it was a moment of renewed faith in humanity, a reminder that even in the toughest circumstances, empathy and kindness can prevail, bringing light where there once was darkness. In every glance was a story of silent struggle, of invisible battles fought against discouragement and prejudice. And there stood living proof that sincere recognition can heal deep wounds, wounds that don't always show but shape character forever. On that journey of delivering the trucks, Buck could see in every face the transformation his gesture was causing. Some friends still remembered the moments when they shared the little they had to ensure Buck's dream didn't die. Others quietly wept as they realized that the success of this simple man, with his soft voice and calloused hands, was theirs as well. It was a cycle of gratitude, respect, and love coming full circle. He didn't care about pomp or public recognition. He preferred the quiet of small rural communities, where true words mean more than speeches. And there, amidst sincere hugs and restrained tears, something rare happened. The meeting of souls who, against all odds, kept the flame of hope alive. Without saying a word, Buck showed that the strength of friendship and emotional justice can change lives in ways no money can measure. That moment transcended material things, symbolizing the triumph of dignity over prejudice and serving as living proof that true love is not measured in numbers, but in concrete, meaningful gestures. He reaffirmed that, in the end, what lasts forever isn't material possessions, but the marks left on the hearts of those who walk beside us. And this lesson resonates especially today, when superficiality seems to dominate human relationships, reminding us of the priceless value of empathy and mutual respect. Forces that, when nurtured, have the power to transform even the hardest hearts. Each truck delivered carried a unique story, a chapter of the journey Buck and his friends had walked together. And that symbolic moment, more than any signed contract or amount involved, showed the true greatness of the gesture. The ability to recognize and value those who stood by us when no one else believed. It was a powerful reminder that success only makes sense when shared, when it echoes in the lives of those who supported us along the way. The tears shed, the spontaneous smiles, the firm and emotional handshakes. All of this translated the strength of what Buck had built, not just a fortune, but a legacy of dignity, friendship, and gratitude. Watching that delivery, it's impossible not to be moved and inspired to cherish the true relationships we all have or wish to cultivate. Because, in the end, it is these bonds that make life worthwhile and eternalize our story in the hearts of the people we love. And so, Buck Carter left us all an immortal lesson. That true power lies in the heart, in the generosity that transforms, and in the capacity to be human, even when the world insists on judging by the surface. His story is an invitation to look beyond appearances and recognize the wealth that resides in small acts of love and solidarity, those that shape not only the present, but the legacy we leave for future generations. On that special day, when Buck Carter returned to the dealership for the tribute organized by his old friends and the store's team, it was clear that he sought no spotlight or public recognition. Unlike the standards of the modern world, where success is often displayed on grand stages, Buck chose simplicity and authenticity as his legacy. Wearing his worn-out hat, which seemed to carry stories of many journeys and challenges, he stepped onto the small makeshift stage where everyone expected grand words or fiery speeches. Instead, Buck spoke with the calm and steady voice that always defined him, delivering a direct and profound message. Not every man with an old hat is dumb, and not every new car travels farther than someone who carries gratitude in their heart. This simple phrase carried enormous moral impact. It froze everyone's attention, silenced murmurs, and filled the room with reflective silence. It wasn't just a phrase, it was a teaching for everyone present, and for anyone who would hear it. True wisdom lies in humility and in recognizing what truly matters in life. It was as if Buck, with his simple and straightforward manner, had just broken down an invisible wall separating prejudice from understanding, revealing that true greatness is not measured by outward appearances but by the inner value we carry and express in every action and thought. In a way, that simple phrase became a metaphor for life, a call to look beyond the superficial and cherish what is truly eternal and transformative. Buck Carter's message served as a mirror for many, reflecting truths that are often forgotten in the relentless pursuit of status and appearances. The figure of the man with the old hat, whom many judged as simple or incapable, revealed itself as a symbol of silent strength, accumulated experience, and values that cannot be bought. On the other hand, the new car, which could represent luxury, power, and superficiality, proved inferior in the face of sincere gratitude. This simple yet powerful metaphor invites us to reevaluate our own perceptions and attitudes. After all, how many times have we let superficial judgments prevent us from valuing people who carry genuine wisdom? How often do we confuse appearance with ability or material wealth with dignity? With his memorable phrase, Buck teaches us that the true reach and value of life are not in the possessions we accumulate, but in our ability to recognize, thank, and respect those who are part of our journey. This lesson, echoing in the soul of anyone who listens, is an invitation for each of us to look inward and reclaim the essence of humility. It is a call for us to slow down, even in modern times, where speed and image often dominate, and to value what truly builds character and meaning. Respect for others, sincere gratitude, and awareness of our place in the world. Buck's phrase, as simple as it may seem, is a reminder never to forget that what truly matters is invisible to the eyes, and that human worth transcends any material or superficial distinction. As he concluded his speech, Buck didn't just leave behind a phrase to be repeated. He planted a seed of transformation in the minds and hearts of everyone present. His lesson goes beyond the walls of the dealership, reaching anyone willing to reflect on the values that guide their life. Humility, respect, and gratitude are not abstract concepts. They are enduring marks that define who we are and how we are remembered. They are principles that can transform relationships, strengthen bonds, and build lasting legacies. True greatness is not found in ostentation, but in the ability to be upright, fair, and generous. And Buck showed this without needing spotlights or loud applause. His simple presence and a single phrase are forever etched as a reminder that true wealth lies within the soul. This final lesson offers an open invitation for each viewer to reflect. How is your humility? How much do you truly value those who stood by your side? And, most importantly, what legacy do you want to leave for future generations? These silent yet powerful questions prepare the ground for the real beginning of a deep and genuine transformation. After all, it's not uncommon for us to forget the value of these principles throughout life and be carried away by the fleeting shine of appearances. But Buck challenges us to reclaim what is enduring and truly meaningful, to look within and act with the wisdom of those who know that a man's greatness lies in his heart. And it is this reflection that can mark the start of a new cycle, a cycle where Buck's values become the compass for choices that transform lives and communities. Now that you've followed Buck Carter's story, it's impossible not to ask yourself, how is your humility? In the midst of daily rush, have you truly valued the people who stood by you during hardships? Has your view been too superficial, judging by appearances instead of seeing true essence? It is at this moment that reflection becomes an invitation. Are you willing to change that attitude and cultivate sincere gratitude, true respect, and transformative humility? These virtues are much more than beautiful concepts. They are powerful tools capable of transforming your relationships, opening doors that once seemed closed, and, above all, connecting you with what truly matters in life. Imagine for a moment if you applied this lesson in your life right now. How would your actions change if you chose, every day, to look at the people around you with empathy? How would your relationships with colleagues, family, and friends be different if you set aside prejudice and judgment and instead cultivated respect and gratitude? These small changes may seem simple, but they have an incredible multiplying effect, capable of transforming not only you but your entire circle of influence. I want to challenge you. What concrete actions can you start taking today to practice this humility? It could be a sincere compliment, a heartfelt thank you, or simply listening to someone with full attention. These seemingly small acts will add up and create a new reality, one that is lighter, more human, and more authentic. Finally, I invite you to join this journey of learning and transformation here on the channel. Subscribe now, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any content that can change the way you see life, and leave a comment sharing the greatest lesson you took from Buck Carter's story. Your participation is essential for us to grow together, sharing experiences, questions, and achievements. After all, learning is a two-way street, and I want to walk alongside you in this pursuit of personal growth, wisdom, and the true greatness that comes from within. So don't waste any time. Start today to build a life marked by humility, respect, and gratitude, and see how it can revolutionize your world.